Hello, everyone. Good evening from India. It's 8 p.m. Tuesday night. This is the time when we catch up for yet another discussion and deep insight in the space of leadership. Welcome to Leadership Satsang. I'm your leadership coach, Yukti Kapoor Mehndiratta. Always super excited to connect with you all on this platform that we've created, just so we can have a candid and open discussion about the many challenges that we face in the space of leadership. It's not as easy as it sounds to be a leader. Also, because nobody teaches us how to be one, right? We do a job really well and then we get promoted, and suddenly now we are supposed to get that job done by other people. And these other people have a mind of their own, they have an attitude of their own, and sometimes it's a clash of attitudes, ideologies, philosophies, and so on and so forth. And it just starts getting messier and messier if we don't do a few things proactively. As they say, if you don't plan things, then you'll end up failing, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The planning that is required for us to be successful in our careers is how to learn leadership in a structured manner. So, here is a platform that we're offering to you on behalf of me and my team, SBY team, Silhouette by Yukti. The only intention behind this is to give you some practical answers to some very practical problems and challenges that you are facing. Today is the open Q&A session, which means I have no agenda of my own. My only agenda is to be here for you and with you. So I'm going to sit back and wait for you to ask me some very interesting, practical, real challenges that you are facing as a leader, and I will do my best to help you out with it right here, right now. So super excited to hear some of your comments. But before that, let's get a hi and find out who all have joined me live today. Hi, Sanjay. So good to have you here again. Sangeeta, very good evening. You're from India. I don't know which part of the world you're in, so please share that as well. It would be great to know. Hi, Bharat. Good evening. In open Q&A, I just kind of sit with my cup of coffee and chill because I have to really look at the comments section carefully and see what are the questions that you have, because that is the only purpose of our open house. I am here as your coach, will do my best to help you with the challenges that you are facing as a leader, whether you are in the corporate world or you're a business owner. So, BIO, bring it on. Prashant, Vipin, Sangeeta, so good to have you all here. Think about, where are you getting stuck in your career? What are some of the challenges that you are facing when you are trying to connect with people? What are some of the reasons why you think it's becoming difficult for you to enjoy what you do? If you feel that you're often misunderstood, think about, how is that happening that often? What about your communication or leadership needs to be looked at to let go of those kind of challenges? So, to give you a quick sum up of all the discussions we've had this month, it's quite a lot actually. So, we started the month by talking about how to let go. That was our first satsang, how to truly, genuinely let go. The second topic was how to meditate the right way. Then we talked about how mindfulness makes you an effective leader. And the last week, we talked about how to inspire trust as an authentic leader. Very beautiful topics, very relevant discussions. Please go to the previous recordings if you've missed out on any of this. And today, we are going to take up any question that you have. So let me start with Mamta, and she says, how do you network effectively in a hybrid environment? Brilliant question, Mamta. Hybrid environment is here to stay, right? We are now already used to an online and offline world. In fact, to be very honest, I'm facing some challenges in this office space that I have, because it is still designed for either an offline meeting because they have training rooms, or just quiet one-on-one meetings in the cabins, which are separated with paper thin glasses. So if we want to take up sessions, or even a coaching session, for example, which is a one-on-one close discussion and close door discussion that we have, it's pretty much impossible to do that in this kind of an office space, which is very, very conventionally designed. So we need to look at hybrid environment at different levels. We need to see, is the infrastructure supporting the hybrid environment, right? Is the culture ready to kind of support hybrid environment? Are we building in enough trust in our people when we tell them or allow them to work from home? I know of many large organizations who consider work from home day, that one day of the week that is given to employees as work from home, as a day where they probably don't work, right? So it's like a question mark. So in management's head, it's an extended weekend. And that's where we go wrong. That's where the culture starts going against the intention. So coming back to your question on networking effectively, Mamta, I think networking is about how we connect with another human. Let's understand that, right? The biggest myth about networking is that we should network with people who can be useful for us or who are important to us. So I should network with um, senior people in the organization, or some people of good repute, or some people who are influential. These are the people I should network with. This is the first mistake that many of us make. Networking is a connection, it's like a matrix, it goes in multiple directions, it's multidimensional as well. So, what matters the most in networking is not so much about the format, whether it is online or offline, it is more about the intention with which you network. And here is the only intention one should have when they are trying to network with other people, other humans. And that is the intention to give. How can you help someone? With that in mind, when you connect with people, it becomes much easier to network. Now, see how format comes in. So, when you are connecting offline, which means in person, the entire body language can be used to connect, to create that trust, that bonding with people. You can walk together, you can maybe share a cup of coffee, you can have a meal together, and that kind of helps you to break the ice much faster. You have a little more time when you're meeting in person. But when you're meeting online, it is important to bring in the awareness level a little higher than usual, which means be keen to observe whatever body language is visible of the person as much as you can see, like half the torso is what's available. And yet, there are facial expressions that will tell you whether the person is in a good space or not in a good space. You can pick up a conversation from something you see in the background. You can pick up a conversation from something that you're aware of or the person was planning to do the last weekend. So the point I'm making here is start with a small talk which is meaningful and not just a very compulsive icebreaker. Let me tell you, as much as it irritates you when somebody is compulsively getting into your space, the same happens to others too. So when we are networking online, our intention should be to create some meaningful small talks, maybe in continuation with something that we both are aware of about each other or we share in common, or picking up something from the background. When it is about meeting in person, then it's important for us to be aware of our own body language and that of the other person, and find opportunities in this conversation to connect and add value to the other person. Giving is the only attitude of a leader or an individual who wants to network. I hope I've answered your question in some way. Sanjay, you shared that I think leadership and mindfulness is all about, to my mind, to navigate stressful situations with calm and clarity. Follow this in general. Yes, I largely agree with you, Sanjay. That's true. It's sort of a preparation of the mind to deal with any situation, or in fact, find ways to proactively manage a situation in such a way that it doesn't become as stressful. So that's another very big benefit of being mindful, besides many other benefits, and we've talked about it a lot this month, starting with how it expands your brain and increases your intelligence and so on and so forth. Okay, so Raghavendra asks how to ensure my super senior is being informed about me in the right way by my boss. Brilliant question. Brilliant question. All right. So we have a hierarchy in every organization. And as much as we may call an organization a flat organization, it only goes to say that there are lesser levels involved. But will there be levels? Absolutely, yes. Are levels important? Yes, because they solve their own purpose. The purpose of having these levels or hierarchy is so that the information is decimated to a level where that much information is needed. Because when we put out a lot of information at every level, it only becomes more chaotic, right? It is difficult for people to absorb the kind of information that comes their way sometimes, because most of it looks irrelevant to their purpose. So that's just one of the many reasons why there is a hierarchy in place. So having said that, now what is important is to create visibility across levels, not just with your line manager, but with your super boss as well. Now, how to do that? Because that can intimidate your boss, that can make your boss feel insecure. And if that happens, most of the times you're not informed about it. It is just a feeling somebody has. And that is the most dangerous thing. Because if I felt insecure with any action of yours, I'm now more wary of you. I've lost a little bit of trust. And this trust deficit will show time and again, without giving you any opportunity to clarify yourself. And hence, I call this a brilliant question. So, how do I create an equation with my senior boss without rubbing my direct line manager on the wrong side? As always, every relationship develops on the foundation of trust. So, the first thing that we have to work on is to build that strong trust and bonding with our line manager. Then we find opportunities to interact with our super boss in the presence of our line manager and extending the credit to our manager for everything that the team is doing right. Because it's not it's not just fake words. Having done whatever you have done as a part of the team and everybody else has done as a member of the team, it ultimately boils down to how that direct manager or the team leader is weaving it together, right? And that's when they're able to put it out as one piece to their line managers. So whether or no your line manager has played a vital role in the overall delivery, they play a huge role just by the designation, by the responsibility of leading the team. So make your line manager look good in front of your super manager, and make sure that the conversations you have with your super manager, which I'm calling as your line manager's boss, is known to your line manager if it happens in his or her absence. The next point, make sure that if you are writing something to your manager is marked in CC. So they are in loop and it doesn't come to them as a surprise ever. Your conversations with your super manager needs to be known to your manager, basically creating a transparency in the relationship so that there is no reason for anybody to feel insecure or lose trust. Now, when you create this kind of a comfortable environment and this level of transparency and trust, then you don't have to worry about what your super senior is thinking about you and is your line manager saying something else, because you have a direct connection with your super senior and they have their own perspective, their own judgment of you. So even if somebody in between is giving a wrong message to them, they have their own first-hand experience with you to validate it against their own feeling and judgment of who you are. I hope I've been able to answer this, Raghavendra, and thanks once again for asking the question. Okay, Sangeeta says, can you please share some of the best practices to help a team from where they are performing to a very high performing, meeting business requirements and enabling careers? Okay, great question again, Sangeeta. The only job of a leader or a team manager is to work on every single team member's overall development. That's our only job, right? Our job is to get the job done. And for us to get the job done, we need to invest our time and effort in developing each and every member of the team. So, how do you make a team, which is just a group of people working together, into a high performing team, which is a group of people aligned towards a common goal? How do you make their performance levels elevated? How do you make them a high performing team? I hope that's your question, Sangeeta, because that's what I'm understanding of what you're saying here. And if that is the case, then here is how you build a team to a high performing team. There is a concept called the 5 dysfunctions of a team. There is also a book on it. You should pick that up because it explains much in detail. But I will tell you briefly how it works. So, as I said, the foundation of any team is trust. So, the first level at which we will work with our team is to build that trust. It is done consciously, it is done with some plan in place, very clear action points on how I'm going to develop trust. It doesn't just happen, right? Trust is built, it can be built. And so you need to consciously find ways to build that trust within the team members. That's the first thing you do. Now, when there is enough trust, is when conflicts are possible, conflicts are welcomed, conflicts are taken positively. An organization that has no conflicts is not a healthy organization in my point of view. Why? Because when there is no conflict, it means that one person says something and others don't even care to think enough about it to have a disagreement, isn't it? So you say, okay, let's do this, and everybody says, yeah, all right, let's do it. You're the team leader. If we go in a ditch, you're the one who gets killed first, we're fine. It's only a healthy team that will find motivation and reasons to put their hand up and create a disagreement or put out a disagreement if there is a genuine disagreement at any point. So conflicts are healthy, but they happen only when there is enough trust in the team members. Why? Because everybody is scared to be misunderstood, to be judged. So that's the reason why a lot of people don't even put out their disagreements. You tell them to do something and they'll happily just go ahead and do it. And then later you say, hey, you know what? You thought of a better idea. Why didn't you share it before? And they'll say, well, nobody asked. You said we should do it and we did it. It's not as if you're not allowing people to talk. It is how we've missed out on giving them the comfort to challenge each other, including you. So conflict management is the next level up from trust. And then comes a commitment. When people get into a conflict, when they hear their own voice, when they are in disagreement with each other, is when the perspectives are put out on the table, right? Everybody shares their point of view. And that's when consensus can be built. When that consensus is built, is when people are truly committed to the task. Understand this. This is very, very important. You cannot commit to something that you don't agree with, isn't it? You will still do it maybe because you have to do it, but you are truly committed to it when you also believe in what's being done. And that happens when you've been allowed to put out a different point of view, which is what? Conflict. So when trust is developed, conflict takes place. When conflicts happen, consensus are developed. With consensus, commitment comes in. Now comes the next level, and that is to create accountability. When people are committed, only then you can make them accountable. So, a lot of people ask me this question: how do I make my team accountable? It's not just very simple 1, 2, 3 ways to make them accountable. There is a certain process. It develops from the last level, the last layer of this pyramid, and goes up to 4 levels before it reaches the accountability level. And that is when we can get the desired results. When you work this way with your team, is when you start moving from just being a group of people who call themselves a team to a high performing team which is aiming at the same result, the same goal. Right? I hope I've given you a very clear action plan there, Sangeeta. So go ahead and implement that. How to avoid resistance to new things, Amit says. Well, I'm glad that you are aware that there is resistance when you're trying new things. And I'm really happy to hear that, because to me, it shows your awareness level, Amit. A lot of people are in this denial that they love change. Why? Because it's such a right thing to say. Who doesn't agree with that? Everybody agrees with the fact that change is the only constant, change is inevitable, blah, 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 and a lot more blah, blah on change management. But let's face it, very few people really like to embrace change. If we could, we would just want to have everything the way it is. Why? Because it is so familiar. When it is familiar, it is predictable. When it is predictable, there is less fear of the unknown. Are you understanding this? So I don't want to be unsure of what's going to hit me. I want to know where it's going to come from, and I want to be prepared. So Let's face it, very few people are really, really open to change. Many of us feel this resistance, experience this resistance to new things and new change. Now, how do you make this easier for yourself? Is to get involved in the change process. What is this new thing all about? How is it going to add value? How is it going to make our lives better or our performances better? What is the reason to introduce this new change? Now, let me put it out very clearly here that this line of questioning of why the change is required or this new thing is required is not coming from questioning for the sake of it or questioning to support resistance. It is coming from a space of curiosity instead. It's coming from a place where you are willing to learn. Hey, all right, great, new things. So, how is this going to help? How is this going to make our life easier? I am very curious to know. I am genuinely curious to know why should we be looking at a new thing or a new task or a new way of doing things. That is when you build in that intrinsic motivation required to do your bit to support that change or to get involved with that new thing. So that's the first thing to look at, Amit. The second thing is to allow yourself to take baby steps. You don't have to jump in and go all out with something that you don't know. It's absolutely new. You might fall on your face and you don't want to do that. So it's okay to take one little baby step at a time. You might trip, but you're not going to fall on your face. You know what I mean? There might be a few mistakes and then you know how to come back and then you take the next step forward. But allow yourself to take that baby step. And the third thing is about ensuring that you keep checking on the why as you keep moving forward. Keep reminding yourself of the purpose that is giving you the motivation to take that baby step at a time. And that's when you become somebody who walks the talk. You become somebody who we call as a leader who leads from the front. To lead from the front, you should be willing to be the first one who enters a dark room with a torch in hand, but not knowing where to hit it, in which direction, right? And that is why it's not easy for everyone to claim to be a leader or to even prepare themselves to become one. So if you are somebody who's willing to do that, then overcoming the resistance is a function of going through these three steps. Understand the reason why you're going through this resistance and bringing in that change, and then allow yourselves to take baby steps and not leaps forward to prove anything to anybody or make unrealistic targets come true, and then remind yourself of the reason why you're doing this. And that will help you to keep taking one step at a time. I hope this helped, Amit. Please do let me know in comments if you have any, follow-up question to that. Sanju says to me, it is to navigate stressful situations. Sorry, I've picked this up already. Smita, is meditation the only way to practice mindfulness? Very good question again. I've talked about it, I think, in the last few satsangs. So, what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is our ability to see things clearly and respond more effectively. I've said this earlier, right? So it's about being in the present moment. Now, being in the present moment does not mean being positive all the time or being free of thoughts. So a lot of people think mindfulness means no thoughts. No, that's not true. There will always be some thought or another. And there might be some, phases in between, a few seconds in between where you experience no thoughts at all, like you're completely blank. And that's all right. But having thoughts is also just as okay. So there will be thoughts. Mindfulness is about being aware of what is that thought that's crossing your mind in this moment. What is the experience you're experiencing in this moment? What is the feeling that you are feeling in this moment? So meditation is one way to practice being in the moment. But there are many other ways to do that. You could bring in mindfulness in anything and everything you do. If you're listening to this session right now and you're only with me, only with this session, you are practicing mindfulness right now, right here. You are already practicing it. If you have to drink a glass of water, just sip it in slowly and allow yourself to feel that water trickling down your throat, going down to your stomach till the last part of your organ where you can feel the sensation of it trickling down. And in that moment, you are experiencing mindfulness. So you can bring in mindfulness as a practice in anything and everything you do, from how you eat to how you walk, how you talk, how you listen, how you drink, right? Every bit of what we do can be done more mindfully if we are able to bring ourselves to that present moment and one present moment to another. I hope that answers your question, Smita. Ashwini says, how can we handle negative attitude and thoughts in a company? Yes. Now, see, a company is a group of many, many, many people, and every person has their own experiences, good or bad, their own attitude, their upbringing, their personalities. It's such a cocktail. So, there's one thing that we must remember, that it takes all to make the world. Trust me, as much as we are desperate about finding people who are like us, if the whole world was just like me, it would get so boring. There'll be no different point of view, there'll be no different thought, there'll be no different way to react, there'll be nothing to appreciate about other people, because what I lack, everybody lacks, and hence there will be no opportunity for me to understand what I lack, because I just don't see that in anybody else to know, okay, you have this, and so I know I lack it, right? So a lot of our growth is also a function of what we see in others and how we get inspired by them, and we want to bring that into us, which is what we are calling as growth, right? So let's first accept the fact that it takes all to make the world, and each and every person comes with their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, what we are experiencing as a negative attitude is our own experience. Let's take ownership of that first, right? Nothing is negative in isolation. Like, okay, so here is something which is negative. You can't label a thing as negative, isn't it? You may consider somebody's way of talking as a negative way of talking. Somebody else might consider that to be assertive. Somebody else might consider that to be necessarily authoritative, right? Somebody else might consider it to be what you deserve, as you know, the way this person is talking is because you deserve it. So are you understanding there are different perspectives to one behavior? I am labeling that as a negative behavior or a negative attitude. So what is important for me as a conscious mindful leader is to go a level deeper into why I am feeling like that before I start fixing the whole world around me, which is what we do very easily. What we want to do, we want to be a fixer. If something is not right, I'm not feeling good about something, it's because somebody else is at fault. And when I fix that somebody else, everything will get fixed. Actually, that is the absolute opposite of what we should be doing. Whenever you have any feeling that makes you uncomfortable or makes you believe that there is a problem in the environment here, please take the responsibility to be a part of that environment. And the moment you do that, you are more willing to go deeper into what's going on here in my 1 trillion brain cells, in the billions of neuron connections that develop here, like the stories I build in my own head. What am I calling as negative? What is the reference point for that experience that I've had? Can I go deeper into what can I change about the way I behave that is making me feel that I'm getting a negative response? I wish, Ashwini, I could give you a simple 1, 2, 3 step and say, okay, do this, talk to people, be nice to people, smile more often, go for coffee breaks, share a meal. All that are great things to do. But if we really want to change the environment that we are a part of, we need to start that change with our own selves. There is just no other way. There is no other way which is sustainable. For how long will you keep sharing the meal without anything being different? You will not be motivated to do that beyond a point, isn't it? For how long will you smile at people you don't like just because smiling can melt the ice? Are you understanding my point? So, if you work at a deeper level, you are able to enable something more sustainable. The change that you will bring in, the transformation you will bring in for yourself and others will be long lasting. So, think about what I've said and understand a little more about what you're calling is negative, and let's start working from there. All right, I think that's all the time we have. There are many more questions, and I promise to take them up in the sessions to come. If I can make time, I'll probably drop in, a quick comment on your questions on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining in and asking some very, very relevant questions. Please remember, when you ask questions, it's a way for you to serve the entire leadership community, because what you're asking could be a question for many other people, and that answer could open up something for so many others who are probably here and couldn't ask, or are not here and listening to it later on. So thank you so much for your service by asking these questions and for allowing me to give my 2 cents to it. I hope this was useful. I would love to know if you're taking away something from what I have shared with you all. And I promise to come back next Tuesday with another insightful discussion on this platform called Leadership Satsang. Thank you so much for joining in. Feel free to write to me with your questions as well if you think there is a need for it to be answered and it's a burning question for you. I'll be happy to make time. Catch you again next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining me once again. God bless you all.